We have just finished our annual retreat, and I'm sure we benefited from it, though that is not always immediately noticeable. There are some retreats which have, or leave, a kind of an impression, a deep impression on our mind, because something happened there that we can never forget. And such a retreat happened to me years ago when I attended one with 4,000 priests in Rome, a worldwide priest retreat in Rome. Priests from all sorts of countries, from all sorts of nations, from all over the world actually. And we listened to I do not know how many speakers, and we had 10 translators, so the speeches were translated in 10 languages at the same time simultaneously. And we were seated in a hall of 10,000 people. So you must say, wow, that must have been a fantastic experience for you. Well, at the beginning it was not. At the beginning it was not. The speeches did not really turn me on very much. I got a headache from the sound system. I didn't like the food. We had to line up for a cup of coffee, and when I had reached the counter, then somebody blew the whistle and we had to go back again for another coffee. So I really didn't feel very inspired. And if it had been up to me, I would have gone home if it could have done so unnoticeably. But then on the last day, something happened that made the whole thing different. We all were asked, the 4,000 priests, to march to go in procession 2 by 2, wearing our cassock, and we got a red stole to wear, so we were all looking the same. 2 by 2 in procession to over the what we call that St. Peter's Square, to the St. Peter's Basilica. And I was one of the last ones in the row, and I could, from a certain vantage point, I could see that whole procession going sort of St. Peter's Square, actually not in one straight line because there were too many priests, so they had to, in order to fit the square, they had to go zigzag. And at that moment, I felt immensely proud to belong to this gang. Obviously, I know very, very well, much better than you, that we priests are not holy, or that we are not so perfect, but I know also that all these 4,000 priests, at one time of their life at least, have made a radical commitment to Christ and His kingdom. And I thought, what a beauty, and how proud I feel to belong to this body of men who have given themselves so completely, at least at one time of their life, to Jesus and His kingdom. And how poor, how terribly poor the church would be if there were no priests anymore. Dear friends, what is a priest standing for? Some would say, he is a man of God. Of course, all people, all men and all women are men and women of God. But the priest should be standing for him in a very special way. His whole life hangs on it. His whole perfection, his whole way of living, his ideals and his thoughts, his words and his deeds are supposed to be centered on it. Alter Christus, another Christ. That is how he sometimes is called. And again, all of you are other Christs. There is no difference as far as that is concerned. But the priest represents Jesus as the head, as the good shepherd, as the leader who leads his flock, who feeds them with the sacraments and with the holy word of God. Dear friends, without priests, a healthy church is impossible, cannot exist. I have seen that so clearly in my own home country in Holland. In the past, we were a flourishing church, at least looking at the outside. More flourishing than the Church of Singapore, I should say. We had plenty of priests, and plenty of vocations too. At one year, in our own SSCC congregation, which is a medium-sized congregation, not at all so big, the priest vocations were so numerous that they came to our seminary in a bus. You hear that? Our priest vocations of 1 year came to the seminary, our candidates for priesthood came to the seminary in a bus. Now the situation is totally different. There is a drastic decline in church life, and at many places there are no vocations at all anymore. Sometimes when I went on home leave, I went to Oosterbeek, the place where my mother was born and where most of my family on mother's side are living. In the past, they had a flourishing parish with 3 priests who were so busy that they could hardly go and find a rest for their work. And now, at weekdays, the church is closed. Or rather open, but I have been there sitting and praying on my own. You don't see anybody attending. So you can safely say the church is closed. The sacristan is an Anglican. The grave digger is an atheist. The small canteen is looked after by an agnostic. The person who makes up the weekly roster is somebody who is not baptized herself. Only once in 3 weeks there is a Sunday Mass said, because the priest has to travel from church to church to answer the demands. So it is set for a handful of people, hardly more than the number of people attending one of our own 8:30 Masses on weekdays.